All right, thanks for joining me for Real Talk NFT, where we talk about all things NFT and Web3 related. I'm your host, Brian. You know, my amazing co host, Joe. We have an awesome guest here for you today. It's Alex Moody. He's the CEO of the Ceden Network. He's also the managing director of the Web3 gaming studio called Raini. Alex, really happy to have you on the podcast today. How you doing?
It's great to be here, guys. Thanks so much for having me.
All right, great. And everybody, this was a little bit of a take two, so this sounds a lot better. We had a little bit of choppiness, so that sounds great. Alex, we were getting started kind of talking a little bit about your Web3 background, how you're kind of like just a G in Web3 and Web3 gaming. I want to dive deep and talk about the Ceden Network, about Raini Gaming Studios, but would love to know a little bit about your background before Web3 and how you got into this crazy world.
Sure. Well, I started out. I'm like a serial entrepreneur through and through. I started out my career right out of college in traditional finance. I worked in retail banking to start, like right at the like the teller line, and then worked my way up into investment banking. Worked for all the big firms, Merrill and Bank of America. All those mergers with TD and Ameritrade. I was there at all those mergers. Thing is, I hated every minute of it. It's like this corporate animal that is just super profit focused, not people focused. It's really it just didn't sit well with me. Like I have a libertarian mindset. I have a very freedom oriented mindset. Everything that these corporations stood for, just didn't feel right. But I had some success through working hard and some lucky breaks in that process, and I ended up able to go off on my own and manage. I started managing real estate, rentals, things like that, and flipping some things, and ultimately that just led me down a path where I spent the next 20 years walking through whatever door opened up. It's really, my career has been entirely about being passionate about something, being interested in something, like finding a product or a niche industry that I found like really cool and really interesting, and then deep diving it on a personal level and then getting excited about it, starting a business or a brand inside that industry, which led me to my latest business prior to getting into Web3 full time, was a company called Kinetic Enterprises, which Kinetic Labs was one of the larger co-packer and manufacturers and distributors of e-liquid across the world. We sold all over the world. And we had started that out with a little tiny vape shop. My wife and I opened up in our little sleepy town, and that grew to peak. We had 6 or 7 vape shops. We had multiple brands, over 50 brands throughout the U.S. co-packing in our facility. So it's just about finding an interesting market that other people aren't in yet or are early to, and then just getting obsessed with it, and then developing creative brands and finding like figuring out the logistics that to make that profitable. And that led me, the mindset of people in that industry was very, very anti-government. They tried to shut us down a bunch. In fact, they almost successfully did. And so it's just like that anti-government sort of personal freedom, libertarian mindset, like was very pervasive in that industry. And those people introduced me to Bitcoin in like early 2017. And once I was introduced and started deep diving the concepts and the ideology behind it, and then the technology of the DApps and the protocols and everything else that was being created during that ICO boom, I just was obsessed, completely obsessed, and dove headfirst into Web3 as an enthusiast and investor.
Man, I could 100% relate with where you're going with that, because I came from the corporate world and been in the Web3 world for a while now, but it was just something I was absolutely passionate about. I was coming home from work, reading everything I could about Bitcoin, shitcoins, Web3, NFTs, absolutely anything I could get my hands on. If anybody was even slightly interested in talking about cryptocurrency with me, I was like all about it. If not, like, I probably annoyed a lot of people in my day, but I love that you followed, this with your passion, and I could really relate where you're coming from there. It's a lot of fun to be in this industry.
It is. It is huge, and I spent. I got my ass handed to me for years, guys. It wasn't like I jumped in and got instant rich. I think I lost money for probably the first 3 years. Just over and over again, make like a 10x and then lose it all over the course of like the next 4 months, over and over and over again. But I met some really great people. I met my now business partner, co-founder of Ceden, Julian Jordan, who's head of product. I met him in those early days in 2017. I met a bunch of cool people in the group chat. And we all like shared, experiences. We were like battlefield comrades, and then ultimately it led to Ceden over a long and windy road.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about Ceden. It's you're doing big things over there. I'm really interested in to learn more.
Sure. Ceden is at its core, it's an infrastructure toolkit for interactive entertainment. So we make stuff for video games, and there's really two kind of primary. There was originally two primary kind of focuses. One, the creation of content, democratizing the creation of content for video games, and the decentralization of the way that content is delivered. So, like we talked about, that ideological kind of dislike for corporate consolidation and the big companies and the big, and their ideologies driving what we can and cannot watch, experience, and play. That drove the thinking behind Ceden. So I was consulting back in, I don't remember the year. Several years ago, I was consulting a Web3 middleware layer for gaming. That I was there to consult on business expertise and like blockchain tokenomics. And a gentleman named Michael Haller was there to consult. He's a legend from the video game industry. He created Medal of Honor. He was the general manager at EA. He created the DreamWorks merger.
Oh, wow.
He won Fighting Game of the Year at THQ with the WCW franchises. He put the team together that created Call of Duty, made Def Jam Vendetta. I mean, the guy's a legend. So he was there consulting from a Web 2 perspective on gaming. And the two of us hit it off, had all these great chats kind of behind the scenes, realized that, one, we're the same kind of workers, that we have a passion for the same kind of things. And ultimately, a group of us founded Ceden around that, those principles. And it was really the idea that it's too hard and it's too expensive and it's too complicated to make content for video games for content creators. It's really disadvantaged like the creative process. And you see that the consolidation in the video game industry has led to it's just a sequel business now. There's no creativity because creativity is risky and it's expensive to make a game. So we said, okay, how can we create a pathway or tools and utilize Web3 in order to simplify the development and creation process? And then the second part of the business was the delivery process. And that's where the Keystone NFT Node network comes from. And that's really been interesting very prophetic. So several years ago, we had this idea of peer-to-peer delivery of content between users, like gamers serving gamers, as opposed to really centralized entities doing it. And then, of course, over the last 2 years, we've seen Disney buys Epic Games, Epic like bans Web3 games. They walked that back. Steam no-go on Web3 games. So all of a sudden, you're seeing the corporate censorship at the highest level in video games. And how long? And then we saw like the guy FaZe Banks or whatever, who he had he took a stand on one issue or another, and the crowd didn't like the stand, so they canceled him. And it's going to happen. You're going to eventually get the point where video games are just a curated, censored industry, and we need to change that. So Ceden Network was born out of that principle.
Very nice. And I see it. Oh, I was going to say, I see you have the Kanpai hat on. We're talking about the Ceden Network, and then also you're connected. Kanpai and the Ceden Network acquired Raini Gaming Studio, correct? Walk me down.
That's correct.
Walk me down that path a little bit. How'd that all come to fruition, and what's Raini all about?
Absolutely. Yeah. Let me give you a little bit of context on why Ceden went on an acquisition spree over 2023. So my business partner, Julian Jordan, co-founder I mentioned, and we've invested in protocols that we thought were exciting since the dawn of our getting into this. And over again, from a business perspective, we kept seeing these really smart people creating really cool ideas and in many cases even successfully delivering the product, and then nobody used them. There'd just be crickets. And it happened over and over again. It's like 7 daily active users on a 1 billion market cap like product. And you just shake your head and say, well, they didn't think of a user acquisition strategy. And so what we knew about the video game industry, and we know about video game technology, it's called the halo effect, right? It's that you have to have a content loss leader to drive users and to prove a model so that users will go and adopt new technology or new hardware. So Microsoft, at the advent of 3D gaming, Microsoft wasn't in the game at all. Nobody was going to buy an Xbox. You had a PlayStation, you had a Nintendo, you had a PC. There was no reason at all to buy an Xbox so that you could have another console sitting on your counter. And so Microsoft went and made Halo. Now, it ended up being an incredible game, but you had to, they hyped it so much that you had to buy an Xbox in order to play that game. And Xbox exploded onto the scene and immediately had, grabbed 1/3 of the market share. So we knew that. So what we did was we took advantage of the bear market and went out and acquired a bunch of, we ended up with 4 gaming studios that had either complete or near complete IPs and games that we could acquire for a win-win situation, acquire kind of a defunct or downtrodden community with a team that sort of lost direction or didn't know what the next steps were for them, improve the game, make some investment into that property and cash flow it, and then prove our technology model with games that we direct and own. So that content creation ecosystem delivering into work into our delivery system. And so the last, what I would call the crown jewel of our acquisition strategy over the past year was Raini Studios by a mile. And the reason why is because Raini Studios is one of the only, and I will say that, one of the only Web3 studios to ever release a complete game. And it's not just a complete game where, I'm in a lot of these alpha chats, right? And yesterday, one of this whale NFT and gaming alpha chats, they say, oh, no, never play the games you're invested in. Because as soon as you do, you're going to turn it instantly bearish. The games are bad. I mean, they're usually thinly veiled DeFi Ponzi's that have some sort of gaming skin over it, where you're just farming a token.
Yeah.
So you can dump it for money, and it's not fun. It might be profitable for a period of time, but it's not fun. Raini Studios did something truly extraordinary. The founders and the previous team, they created a game. It's fun. It's addictive. It was the first game launched on the Beam subnet, the gaming chain of AVAX, and it was one of the first and only Web3 games published in partnership with Epic. On the Epic Play Store. So last June, long before the self-publish option became available for Web3, Epic, at last year's JDC, Epic partnered with and made an announcement with the onboarding of the Lords of Light onto their platform, which was huge. So they just did something incredible and created this great game. And what the problem is they needed a team who understands the game industry, user acquisition, to take it to the next level. It was a simple case of, okay, we got here. Now what? We don't know what's next. And so this was a natural fit. Josh from the Kanpai Pandas and I, we've been friends for a while. We didn't do business together. I'm one of the larger panda holders. I've got a 1 of 1. At one point, I was the largest panda holder until some of the other guys started sweeping up 500 at a time and whatnot. But we've just gotten to know each other, and there's a mutual respect that's developed over the last few years between the two of us. He's an absolute killer operator. He's super charismatic. He's extraordinarily successful outside of Web3. And then he took over a Web3 brand that was floundering, Kanpai Pandas, and turned it into a powerhouse. And what the stuff he's doing is just on another level. And then he looked at me and said, "Oh, this guy's an operator," and I am. I'm a business operations specialist. I can take a company and manage teams really well, develop brand and product focus, find product market fit, and execute. And so the two of us looked at it, and he's been advising Raini Studios for ages. So when this deal fell in my lap, my first phone call, and I mean first, I hung up with one person, hit end, picked up and said, and Josh, I got to talk to you about something. It was literally like that. And then it took a while. It took us 4 months, of which, to due diligence and everything else. And ultimately, it just was a no-brainer to create Kanpai Studios so Josh could have that gaming Web3 elements sitting tangentially to the Kanpai Pandas, and then for Ceden to just create a joint venture, partner with them. And we've done incredible things. I mean, the Raini Studios is just crushing it right now.
Awesome. You mentioned the Lord of Lights game, and I saw that there was a combat IP that was either acquired or is in the works of being released. Can you tell us what's coming down the pipe? Something for us to look forward to?
It depends on when this podcast airs, because I can't leak it.
Right.
Let me tell you this. Within the next week, we're dropping the announcement of the IP. But let me give you some context here. My business part, I'm gonna lay it out here. I'm gonna leak it, and if it leaks, when is this gonna air?
2 to 3.
Just curious.
2 weeks, right, Brian?
Yeah, 2 weeks. We could push it. We could put
We're gonna take the risk. We're gonna just light the wick and see what happens.
I like it. All right, it's breaking here first on the Real Talk NFT podcast. You know,
that's right. Real talk. I got to be real with you guys.
Right.
Okay. So listen, my business partner, Mike Haller, he got started in the literal beginning of PlayStation 1 at a company. He was brought into THQ because he had the game rights to Akira. So Akira, Ghost in the Shell, traditional anime. Haller wrote the English versions, brought them to the West, and basically four-walled it and started the entire Western anime boom. Like that's Mike Haller, head of gaming at Ceden. Wow. And so Haller ends up, because of this, with the game rights to Akira, and gets courted by every game studio on the planet, and ends up, for whatever reason, at THQ, who makes a bunch of bad decisions and essentially enters like bankruptcy. So they bring him on as executive vice president and say, hey, come on the board. You've got to help us turn this around. And the turnaround story of THQ is that Mike acquired the WCW wrestling franchise, and then went on for an 8-year run where basically they dominated the one category where EA, Electronic Arts, won every other category. And so WCW became WWF, WWE, right? Huge thing. If you know Mike, and you can watch some podcasts, people can see the Spaces with Faces with Mike. The guy is the farthest from like what a wrestling guy, and his entire career has been like this whole wrestling. It's just like until he made Medal of Honor, and then now he's more known for that. But so anyway, so there's an organization in South America called Lucha Libre. And you guys have probably seen Nacho Libre with what's his name, Jack Black, yeah. But from a cultural standpoint, Lucha Libre is considered the pinnacle of it's one of the Mexican art culture top tier enterprises activities. Like culturally, it's extraordinarily significant. It's also the second largest entertainment franchise or IP behind soccer or football, depending on what part of the world you're in. Wow. And since Mike has created the wrestling games for the last 15 years, the Lucha Libre organization's been hounding him to create a game. And here's the problem. The problem is the PlayStation and the Xbox were geo-blocked, and they had no market in Latin America. So there's no game to make. Every time you try to make a game with Lucha Libre, there's no market, there's no distribution channel. And there's really just like, what are you going to do? Make a weak clone of whatever the latest wrestling game is on PlayStation? So there's just not been an opportunity until we acquired Raini Studios. And we got access to the Lords of Light. And the beautiful thing is, Lords of Light is this incredible game engine, trading card game engine. And it's the perfect basis to create what we're going to create, which is Lucha Throwdown. We're in partner with a license. We have the licensees with 210 of the top luchadors and luchadoras in South America. We have the partnership with the organization Mass Republic, so we get on-site, QR codes, whatever we need for distribution and marketing, and we have this extraordinarily huge, built-in, highly fanatic fan base. So we partnered with an art studio in South America, in Guadalajara, Mexico, called Demente. They're like one of the top CGI game studios. They did all the art, and we provided all the engineering, and the game is like on the cusp of being launched. In fact, we're going to do in the next week, we're doing the IP reveal. And at GDC, we're doing, in partnership with Demente, we're doing the actual gameplay reveal. And the game will be out really quickly. So we acquired a studio on December 15th. We announced it. And like less than 6 months later, we're going to have a fully functioning, probably one of the largest games that ever comes out of Mexico on the market, which is just extraordinary if you understand game studio development cycles.
So you've basically done more in the last 6 months than most of these projects and companies have done with millions of dollars in their treasury haven't been able to do in 3 years, correct?
Yeah, and we did it with $0. That's the beauty, right? So part of the thing about the operational, one of the things I find about Web3, the beauty of Web3 is that it does democratize the access to funding for independent like studios, right? It's perfect. You don't have money, you don't have VCs, nobody's going to bet on you. And so you can go to the people and say, hey, come come participate. And I like that. I do like that.
Yeah.
The problem you get people that don't have any actual game experience. The minute I see somebody say, we're making an MMO, and you're like, how are you going to do that? Blizzard can't even make another one. So there's like a lack of understanding of the game industry. There tends to be a lack of business experience. And then large treasuries make people lazy. They make people complacent.
Yeah.
So it can be a real burden when you have, your paycheck's coming. You've got tens of millions of dollars. You get horrible studio creep. So, before you know it, there's 8 people that walk by you in the office every day. You don't really know what they do, but you just assume they're important. And your budgets are just crazy and nobody's getting anything done. And which is why you're seeing the video game industry does that naturally with the studio creep. But Web3 game studios have been doing it as well. And it does create this problem of there's just a lack of execution. And I think we bring something different to the table where Josh and I are business execution specialists. That's what we do. And so like managing teams, developing teams, managing budgets, understanding how to make a dollar count. I look at every expense that comes through the company. It's $500. I'm like, did we get the value that 500 deserves? If we had $50 million in the treasury, would you think I would do that? Probably not. I'd be like, I wouldn't even be the one looking at it.
Yeah.
It's just a different mindset of kind of like bootstrapping and grinding, kind of like gritty in the dirt grinding to raise a studio up from nothing versus having everything handed to you and going for it in that direction.
Yeah. I had a question about node operation, just to pedal it back a bit. I'm not sure if this new game is going to be on the Ceden Network on Ceden, and just understanding the industry in total. We know blockchain nodes, work well when they do work. We heard of Solana going down maybe 2 weeks ago for the 6th time. I know a Helium. That's the only one that I know of that's doing a telecommunications node. First time hearing a gaming node other than Gala. Can you tell us about the intricacies of that? Is this new game going to be launched with the Ceden Node Network? And maybe how does one, capitalize on it if it is, something to venture into? I know it's an exciting new world, and a lot of people want to get involved.
Sure. Let me explain the Web3 elements of the Ceden Network. There's 2 NFTs that live at the sort of intersection of the company. Again, our company is built now, and it's got 3 pillars. It used to be create and deliver. Now it's create, deliver, play, because we do have an audience that simply wants to just interact by coming to play games, which is welcomed. But if you create, this is inside the create ecosystem would be content creators or people that are interested in consuming the content that other people are creating, and also all the game studios we own and their creations and the tools that help other studios with that. The Ceden Mint Pass lives at that front end. So anything that comes through the create ecosystem, there's intricacies that allow that to create benefits for the Ceden Mint Pass NFT holders. They're primarily free token airdrops, free NFT mints. If there's any sort of incubation that we do incubate some other Web3 companies, we help people with agency services. So if they need if a Web3 studio needs some consulting on meeting people in Web2, or like how do they access game technology, what's the best way to approach XYZ from a studio perspective, we can offer that consulting work. Anything that comes out of that from an ecosystem benefit perspective goes to our Ceden Mint Pass holders. The second NFT is the Ceden Keystone NFT nodes. Mm-hmm. And so what we've done is we've created an NFT node network, or we're in the process of creating that. The node portal, which is in closed beta right now on the ZK Sync testnet, it'll be in open beta, which is when everyone can participate who owns a live Keystone NFT nodes. If you're familiar with the artwork, it's the beavers. So I'm the Beaver King, and then everybody's got the beavers running around now, and a lot of jokes and memes. It's pretty fun. We have a good time. But the beavers, the Ceden Keystone NFT nodes, that's a 10,000 fixed supply NFT network. They get airdropped the CDN ecosystem token over 4 years. So they have a preset allocation, which is 10% of the total supply. And then the other 90% is 100% emitted through block rewards. So there's no pre-mine, no team tokens, no marketing, LP, future use case, whatever. You own a node, you do the work, you get the token, nobody else does, not even the team. So that's how that works. Now, the way that the Ceden node portal is, it's kind of a management administrative layer. So it's how we're going to allow people to integrate with our system and then activate nodes. And so the node placement is then handled in the first phase, open beta, and phase 1, which is probably the first year of mainnet. it's all handled by us. So we figure out where to place the bare metal or VPN to best support the node rollout. And I just revealed to you guys that we have a very high concentration market rollout strategy coming very quickly, which is, if you read our white paper, the entire strategy around developed by our networking people is that if we find really dense geographic areas that have high use and need, then we can saturate that area and prove the model with an MVP. So if you think about it, right, when we launch Lucha, we can saturate the node networks in like Mexico City and Guadalajara and areas like that, where only having 10 or 20 or 30 or 40,000 nodes is enough to support that area. But if we launched it globally, it would be pretty weak, right? There'd be a lot of gaps and drops. The way it's set up is really straightforward, though. Almost everybody, the way that networking for video games or content delivery for video games works currently is really, really straightforward. There's a central server, kind of like your parent server, and then there's your edge of network. And in the case of the video game industry, let's say you're streaming League of Legends. So Riot is in San Diego, and that's the parent server, and then AWS is the edge of the network. So like wherever there's the latest centralized data center, I'm 800 miles from AWS East or whatever, and so that's why I get really good service. Same if you're in Mumbai, India, there's one there, and so on. What we propose at the Ceden Network is we're actually creating the opportunity to cache locally on nodes that eventually, now this isn't going to be technology that's immediately available. We're working towards this rollout, working towards technology growth, and in partnership with some of the best minds in networking, people that were at the forefront of Wi-Fi and so forth. So as we roll this out, the idea would be like if I'm playing League of Legends or Call of Duty or Lords of Light or whatever, I'm sitting here, and if Joe in the office building next door to me he's running a node, then that I might get an even faster caching opportunity. But the worst case is the fallback to AWS. So we use the same minimum structure that everyone else uses, and then we provide a hopefully better solution than that with local caching at the true edge of network, which is right next to the user. And so eventually you can imagine, right, if we can convince gamers to run nodes all over the world, then there'd be networks of people in areas that are all feeding each other the content, and your frame rates would be a lot faster, your delivery speeds would be a lot faster, and the most important benefit is we can eliminate geographic sharding. So one of the problems that everyone talks about, Ready Player One, the future of the metaverse, Web3 is like penultimate goal, right? Is to have this world that we can live in all together. The problem is you can't do that because you have 150 millisecond ping and I have 30 millisecond ping or whatever, and I win. Yeah. It's like whoever is closer to the server wins. But if you can eliminate those problems by allowing local caching, you can actually create that future. You can create the future where VR is actually really possible. The reason VR is so choppy right now is if you drop a frame, it makes you seasick. So you can't really get to metaverse level applications until we start caching closer and closer and closer to the actual user. It's not going to work if you're trying to recreate 4K, but you want to live inside the goggles. Because the second you drop one frame, you're going to be nauseous, and you just can't keep operating that way. So that's kind of like what Ceden's trying to solve. But I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't want to oversell it. It's a long road to that process. We're creating a node management layer. We're creating like localized MVP rollouts, and we're in the process of developing the AI integrated technology in partnership with like some Sydney, some universities overseas, some like the top minds in networking we're in communication with and working with. And ultimately, it's likely that it's a combination of a joint venture that we participate in, or us licensing various technology, various patents, and then executing this rollout strategy over multiple years.
Love it.
Yeah, really good stuff there. And just to clarify, so I believe the mint pass on the Ceden Network's minted out, correct? I saw
It
it.
is. Yep.
Yeah.
You can still mint the Keystone node though.
But yeah, the Keystone node, I think it's like $500 USD I saw. But so that's very interesting. And then you get airdrop the CDN token over 4 years, if I heard that correct.
Mm-hmm. And then you get to if you activate the node on the node portal, meaning you pay the small, node maintenance fee, you get to mine block rewards. And right now, those block rewards aren't just CDN. You mine. We own a Studio Galaxy Rendered Limited, which has the Rocket Monsters game. And when that token TGE happens, you get to mine Rocket Monsters tokens. Mint passes get an airdrop of Rocket Monsters tokens. Next week, they get a free mint of the Rocket Monsters NFT. We just acquired Evolving Forest. So Mint Pass holders get an airdrop or get the free mint of that NFT, get an airdrop of that. The node network mines that. There's an airdrop of RST tokens because Josh and I, so when we took over, there was 50 million, 5% of the supply for team tokens. So Josh and I got 25 million tokens each. Well, we're like not going to, that's like multiple millions of dollars. So what we did was we said, you know what, we're not going to like just dump on our community left and right while we're telling them how great it is, buy it while we're like dumping our free tokens on them. So what we did was we split it and said half goes to the pandas, half goes to the beavers. Whoa. So Ceden gets 25 million we just made it a community's airdrop. And so 5 million goes to the Ceden mint passes as an airdrop. 20 million you mine over on the network. So when you're mining with the Ceden Keystone NFT node, you're right now you're mining you would be, well, if we were at mainnet, you'd be mining 4 different tokens already. And we're not stopping. I mean, we've been acquiring nonstop. We may not acquire as much, but we're definitely in conversations with companies that want to incubate with us. They want to use our network. They want to use our tooling systems. And so all of those create conversations of, okay, how do we incentivize our holders in this process?
That's awesome. And I'm just like crunching the tokenomics in my head here when we're talking about 500 USD that we've all spent that much on a gas mint in the past. And you just probably named more utility than, 99% of the projects out there. Utility is a interesting word to use nowadays, but that's amazing stuff. So not only, they'll get an airdrop of CDN, these other tokens, the RST token, or do Kanpai Panda holders, so they're going to get opportunity there as well, I'd imagine, because this is
25 million tokens. What is that, by the way? Today it's at like 8 cents. Yeah. Let's take a look right here. What's 25 million times 8 cents?
Well, I appreciate you not dumping on everybody's head. I mean, that's
$2 million.
I appreciate you not dumping on everybody, because most people would out there. So you definitely have a long-term vision, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. You could turn that into
we do. I mean, from a Cedens perspective, right? We are vested in shareholders. We have 7 between the 4 studios we've acquired. We have 7 games either on the market, in development, or soon to be in development. We have some of the best IPs. In fact, we haven't even talked about Game 3, which is like blows everything out of the water. But we have 7 games commercially available. We're going to make a shitload of money. We don't need, you know what I mean? I don't need to take $2 million that of free token and like dump it for that in that way, right? So, and the thing is, we're as a company, we have nodes. We're going to be running on the network. We'll be mining the tokens too. So we'll earn our tokens back. I'll earn my tokens back, mining them like everybody else, and then I'll dump them. No, I'm just kidding. I like our.
Wow.
But like we're going to work, we're going to have the same, we're putting ourselves on the same level as everybody else. And then from a corporate standpoint, we come from the background, both myself and Josh, when we're talking about Raini Studios, but when you're talking about Ceden, myself and all my business partners, we come from an Web 2, which is where you build a business with your own money, and then you spend revenue that you make. Like that's how we came up. That's what I understand. In fact, I'm terrible at raising money. I started a raise. Every time I talk to a VC, they go, "I love it. It sounds great." And then like I just don't have the like brain space or willingness to just grind that avenue, and it never goes anywhere. It's like I'd rather just make my own money, build my own revenue streams than ask other people for money. So that's like the mindset that we bring to the table with our business experience from before. So we just build revenue streams. And by the time Ceden is at where it is right now, we have small revenue streams coming in from multiple game studios, multiple NFT mints, multiple projects doing all these different things, and consulting services. We consult other Web3 companies. So we have all this different revenue coming in, and we don't need anything else. So that's kind of the mindset of how we got here, and why we're able to do something like that. And then Web3 is really about Web3 is about marrying the incentivize the incentivization strategy between your community and your company, and finding like really basic and fundamental ways to link those things. They always want to get in like, oh, is it securitizing this and that? It's like, no, we're creating value proposition where the holders benefit. When we win, they win. The holders benefit from what we do. So if we grow, their value proposition is going to grow. And that's just the way it is. That's how we look at it. And I think that the RST airdrop is a perfect example of that, but it's not the only example in either. If you look at Cedens ecosystem, but and again, I'm not part of the Pandas ecosystem other than a fan.
Yeah.
If you look at the Pandas ecosystem, it's how that's built too. So if they win, the Panda holders win, and it just keeps being demonstrated over and over again.
Absolutely. I love it. Not that you need it, but you got another node in San Francisco where there's probably a ton of nodes. I'm going to go get one after this call.
All right. I love it. Yeah. I hope you roll your random, the RNG is good for you, and you get so it's vested in the body type. So if you look at the beavers,
okay,
if you have a regular beaver art, that's common, and that's the lowest, it has 6,800 CDN baked over 4 years in it, all the way up to the one of ones, which have like 35,000 CDN over 4 years. So, common, wooden, cyborg, zombie, gold, diamond, and then one of ones. So that's how the nodes are rated, so that people are always hunting for the rares. It just adds this layer. We could have created Ceden with absolutely no art. Like, it could have just been, it's like numbers on a blockchain. We could have used just a token. Like, we didn't need to do any of this. We hired Cinemunch, who created actually here. The chubby corns.
Oh yeah.
So I'm a chubby corn holder. We hired Cinemunch, her and her partner Froggy Cyborg created, have done like all the art for like all the different like pudgy penguins and all that stuff. So we hired her. She created our art. It was super fun. Like, every single trait is an homage to a classic video game. So if you look at the artwork, every single thing is an Easter eggs after Easter eggs after Easter eggs buried in the art. Because we love this shit. We live and breathe video games. We live and breathe this industry. We live and breathe Web3, and we're on a mission to just merge it all together and just crush it.
Love it.
Man, your enthusiasm's infectious right now, Alex. I am vibing hard. I'm looking at your PFP right now on Twitter, and the beavers look awesome. They're like, they kind of check the boxes that we're always trying to find, They're like, they got a good look to them.
I appreciate that.
So I know we're talking deep into all different networks and games and acquisitions, but you mentioned something that was very interesting. You said we haven't even talked about Game 3 yet. Tell me a little bit about Game 3.
I can't talk too much about Game 3. Okay, so I'll drop a little alpha, but I can't. There's legal. This one's legal. Like,
don't get a deal.
I dropped Lucha Libre. That deal is done, signed, sealed, delivered. Like, it's shipping. I mean, it's so far down the road. This one, would there be legal like ramifications? So I cannot.
Don't do that
too much.
But give us a little.
Josh. So when we partnered with Josh for Raini Studios. One, it just makes sense because we have similar ideologies. We like each other. We have similar like work ethics. It's the only other person I know that is working as much as I am. And so, but he also has access to some extraordinary IPs. Like, if you know Josh and you know the Kanpai Pandas, it doesn't take a lot to connect the dots of where we could go with some things. And so we have gone somewhere with some things, and it's going to blow people's minds.
I love that. I have a pretty good.
That's just in pre-production, though. I mean, Game 3's in pre-production. We're about 2 or 3 months into early design, crafting. We have tentative agreements with the IP IP entity, but we have to. So the way that the video game industry works, you get like a rough idea, then you create the design documents. You create all your designs. You create 3D models. You rig it in Unreal or something, and bring it to the people and say, "This is what you'd look like. This is how the game would play. Do we have a deal?" And at that point, it goes into production. We're right at the end of pre-production with that game, which would put us to the point where we would start production on it probably in the next 60 days. And then we're probably like 6 months to a year from an MVP that would then be shopped to a publisher, take it to Xbox, PlayStation, Steam, etc.
I have a pretty good idea of what you're hinting at, and if I'm even close to the right idea or entities here, that's going to be awesome. So very, very excited. You and Josh are outstanding. Always enjoy talking to you guys because you definitely are looking to put communities first, build a product, and then kind of make your money, like you said. Give me a little bit of a breakdown. So we have the beavers on the Ceden Network. So the min passes are out. We have the beavers on the Ceden Network for the nodes. Love that idea. I'm definitely going to personally dig in deep. Sounds like Joe's already running nodes out there in San Francisco, so he's sold. Give me a little bit of idea of how, like, our audience here, we're talking about Raini Studios. If they want to invest, I know there's not probably an NFT link there, but how do they get involved with Raini Studios? What's that look like?
This is what I tell anybody. It says, how can I get involved? I like what you're doing. How can I get involved? I want you to explore. Come play around. Come explore. Come join us in the Discord or the Telegram. You're going to find some incredibly fun and engaged communities. Everybody's passionate about gaming or passionate about Web3 or passionate about NFTs. Those are the 3 types of people that end up in my communities. That's it. Raini Studios, The Lords of Light. It's a great game. It's on the Epic Game Store. It'll be available in mobile like in the next couple of weeks. Nice. And it's free to play. Now, we also have given out around $500,000 in player rewards since December. So you might want to get involved in a little bit deeper if you want to also earn some tokenized rewards. There are NFT cards, and if you collect those cards and play with them, you increase your capabilities of earning in that player reward system. So that's there. Rocket Monsters is minting on March 5th. That's our other studio. That'll be a game launching on Beam. You can find us at GDC in San Francisco. Nice. In March. Nice. We'll be there in the Avalanche Gaming booth. So yeah, we're deep into the Avalanche gaming ecosystem. I have a very, very strong thesis about Beam. I think the people at Merit Circle are doing incredible things. I think Beam is where the future is going to happen. Right now, you kind of have three chains that are competing for gaming. The kind of old dog Ronin with Axie. It has the player base. Mm-hmm. You've got the real like established chain. I love it. Immutable. Yeah. No complaints there. And then you have kind of the underdog, the new guy, Beam. And me personally, I think Beam wins. And the main reason is Avalanche Gaming has all the games that look fun, that are really polished, are launching on Avalanche. I don't know why that is. It's just the way it's worked out. It's funny because they don't write. This is like, I don't mean to disparage, but they don't write any checks. We chose Beam, and we chose it even though we could have got money going elsewhere. And we chose Beam anyway because we thought it was a better fit for our users, for our tech, and so forth. So I think over time, it's going to take longer for Beam and Avalanche Gaming to get the volume of games because they're not writing huge checks to lure everybody and every developer over, but they're getting the quality of game. So yeah, come explore our ecosystem. Come meet up with us wherever we are. Check out our games. The Ceden Discord is always hopping. There's actually, you can literally game the Discord. There's an engage tool that our head of community created, where you just like create memes and like shit and retweet shit. And you build up points, and then you can spend the points and you can get NFTs and experiences and everything else. You can literally game our Discord. So it's a fun ecosystem to be a part of, and it's going to grow huge. We've been pretty well ignored for the we launched in the middle of the worst bear market when everybody said Web3 gaming was a scam, And so we basically have had no attention on us until recently when we started acquiring companies left and right. Everybody went, wait a minute, what's going on? But yeah, it's new, but it's growing, and I think over the next year or two, it's going to be the place to be if you're into Web3 gaming.
You know, it's so interesting you say that, because doing research on this project, and I'm a big fan of Beam, and one of my close friends in this industry I talk daily with, kind of just always, sharing information. I brought up Beam to him recently, and he was like thought it was like, I thought I was going to give him like a lead, like you should look into Beam and in this gaming, and he was like, absolutely, like it's a great ecosystem, it's something you should dive down deep into.
Mm-hmm.
So really looking forward to digging into that, and I think everybody in the audience should kind of follow what Alex's advice is, explore, learn. That's what we're always trying to do. Every day this world of Web3 gets crazier and crazier, and we're talking to a bright mind here that just seems to have his pulse on the entire industry. And one thing I love, you're trying to reward the community that's engaging. That's what we want in Web3. People that are with us at the day one in helping us build and provide value. It seems like you're doing some great stuff. One more call out. Do you want anybody else to find you? Do you want to give a call out for your Twitter, or do you want to stay kind of unknown?
Sure. You can find me. My Twitter is at Alex_Moody. Ceden is just like Ceden _network. Raini _studios. You can check us, find me. You can find everything else, or find Ceden. You can find everything else. But definitely follow along. I mean, the next couple of years are going to be super fun. We're in it to win it, and I'm quite confident that we're going to blow people's minds with some of the games that we put out. Are just going to. They're gonna elevate the industry over the next few years. So I'm pretty excited for it.
Alex, I have to jump in one thing here. I'm going to say it really quickly. You're not an operator. You sound like the world's best salesman, because everything you just said, I'm sold on. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, tell that to all the VCs I've talked to that have said no to me over the last 2 years.
Right.
But you know what? It's all right, because I don't need to raise money. We just got to build some cool shit, and the rest. If you build it, they will come. Right? Field of Dreams.
The Beaver King. That's him right there, everybody. It's I loved it. I love to hear this. This is one of the better podcasts. I've really enjoyed this. This is a wealth of information. Hopefully everybody can dive deep into this ecosystem. We got Ceden, we got the Beavers, we got Kanpai Pandas. Take a look at Raini Studios. I think their ticker, what is RST?
RST, yep. And you can find that on Beam, on BeamSwap. You can find it on Ethereum, on Uniswap, or on Trader Joe's on Avalanche C-Chain.
So a lot to dig deep into and get lost and learn a lot. So really love this, and we appreciate your time. We know how busy you are, but this was great, and I know the audience is gonna love it.
Awesome, guys. Thank you so much. This has been real fun. It's actually been a lot of fun. So I appreciate it.
Thanks, Alex.